Hello everybody and welcome to this week's video. It is a new month. We are in July. How that has happened, I do not know. But that means it's time for my June wrap up. I read 18 books this month. One of them was a very short story, but I'm counting it because it was on Goodreads, so I logged it. I am going to get my little journal out just to make sure I include all of the books that I read, because I did read quite a few arcs and like things on my Kindle that I don't physically own, so I don't want to miss any. So I don't know where to start. I'm going to try and do it as like in order as possible, but I'm going to start with the books that I don't have physically, just so I don't forget to include them. So that includes the arc I read, Big Corpse on Campus, which I gave it a 2-star. This was a mystery romance kind of thing. Basically, it's about the campus police and a librarian investigating the murder of a student. It was fine. I didn't particularly enjoy it, but that's just because it's not really my thing. Like mystery thrillers, I don't tend to read them or rate them very highly. So it was fine. It was sapphic. I managed to accidentally read so many LGBT books in Pride Month. I'm actually very impressed with myself because I had a TBR of queer books to read. Did I read those? No. But did everything else I picked up accidentally fall into that category? Yes. So I think I've achieved something there. It was fine. I mean, I recommend it if you do like mysteries. Forgot the word for mystery then. But for me personally, it's just not something I would gravitate towards, and I didn't really think about that when I requested the arc, so I learnt my lesson. Then I've got Not in Love and Problematic Summer Romance, both by Ali Hazelwood. I have in fact unhauled these. Oh my god, my TV. Everything's happening. This is so chaotic. But both of those books by Ali Hazelwood, I wanted to read Problematic Summer Romance because it was an age gap romance. I'm in an age gap relationship and I love to see how authors write that and interpret that. However, I did not love either of these books. I struggled through Not in Love, which is a workplace enemies to lovers type thing. It's meant to be an erotica. I didn't find it particularly erotic. I don't think it was very smutty. I think it could have been a lot worse based on other things I've read. But I gave Not in Love a 1-star and I DNF'd Problematic Summer Romance because I think I joked in the video I read it in. It's big on the problematic because the age gap is 15 years. We've got Maya, who is, I'm not convinced that's her name, Maya, who's 23, and then Connor, who's 38. So 15 years, I get it. It's a bit of a big age gap, but as I said, I'm in an age gap relationship and it is 15 years. So to then read a book where the love interest is saying how Maya has the most in common with a 2-year-old and that she's so young and always mentioning her age, it just didn't sit right with me. I think age gaps are good when you can subtly acknowledge that there's a difference, but you don't need to bash me over the head with it in such a demeaning way, you know? I'm 21, I'm younger than she is, and he was being so harsh about her age. I don't know if I just read it in that way or if that is genuinely how it is. I need to see more people reviewing this and saying what they think about how it was handled, but I found it quite offensive to read, so I DNF'd that. It was not for me. So I think maybe I'm done with Ali Hazelwood because I read Love Hypothesis and Deep End and I gave them both I think a 5-star, but I read something else. I read one of her novellas I think, and now I've read these two and I really didn't like any of them. So, and I'm not interested in her other STEM romances. They just don't intrigue me. Although I think my mum has a copy of one of them, weirdly. She's got, I think, Love on the Brain, because I clearly owned it at one point and handed it to her. But I think that's it with me and Ali Hazelwood. I don't want to read anymore, which is a shame because she was the author that got me into reading, but I think I'm done. Then anything else that I've read? Okay, I read Ranch and Red Herrings. That's another arc that I had. I believe all of these arcs that I'm going to mention are out, apart from one which I'll mention. Ranch and Red Herrings follows Cussie. Interesting choice of name. I think her name's Georgia and everyone just calls her Cussie, but I might have made that up. And she inherits a ranch in her hometown from her uncle when he passes away, and she goes back, and then it's revealed to her that actually he had, is it ketamine, the like horse tranquilizer? He had a bunch of that in his system, and so she then goes, well, clearly he was murdered then, that's poison. And she starts investigating it and trying to basically find out if she's in danger by living on this ranch. I enjoyed it. I'm going to continue the series as and when it comes out. I might even request the arc for the new book next year, because I did enjoy it. I gave it a 3.75, which feels really picky of me to say, but it feels right, and I did enjoy it, and I would recommend it if you like a mystery, like a comedic mystery thriller type thing. Anything else that I read? Okay, the little novella short story, and I mean it is short because it was maybe 20 pages, so it feels cheating to add it to my list, but I've added it because I thought it was funny to put on my Goodreads. And it is called You Shall Not Pass Without Sucking Me Off. I read this to piss off my boyfriend because he's a massive Lord of the Rings fan, and he found it quite offensive that someone had taken this great work and turned it into a smutty novella, smutty short story. I don't know what it's classified as when it's that short. I read it, I gave it 3 stars. It was funny as fuck. There's no substance to the story, but it was entertaining, so take that as you will. And then finally I read another arc. This one is called Riding High. It's like a, is it polo they play on horses? It's a polo romance, but it just had so many different plot lines going on that it was confusing. None of them felt fleshed out to me. The main character is severely allergic to horses and like has all these, like a big rash basically on her whole body and these like open wounds, and that just I didn't like reading that. So I actually DNF'd this one, and I feel really bad because I think that's the first and only arc that I've ever DNF'd, and I didn't know how to write a review that didn't feel mean. So I hope I've achieved it. We'll see if I get blacklisted from that publisher, but I didn't enjoy it. It was tough. It was a tough read. I read I think 20% of it, which isn't much, but you know, if I'm having this visceral of a reaction to the first 20%, it's probably for the best I didn't read it. I will say I did like the main character, liked K-pop and K-dramas. As you can see, I also like K-pop, so that was a nice inclusion. That I don't tend to see that in books actually. I feel like it should be mentioned more, but so that's all the books that I read and I don't physically own. Now going on to the books that I do physically own, and I'm very excited to talk about most of these, to be honest. So we did 2 new releases from May that I do own physically. I've got Hat Trick by Chelsea Cato. This book to me is like the Taylor Swift lyric, I love you, it's ruining my life, because I love this book, but oh my god did I cry. Oh my god did I cry. So this is the 4th book in the DC Stars series. I'm obsessed with this series. Every single book in the series has been a 4.5 or above. I highly recommend it. It's hockey romances. And this one specifically follows Riley, who in the beginning of the book is in a car accident and loses his leg. As you can see, he's is it an amputee? No, that doesn't. Yeah, it is an amputee. That didn't sound right to me. And he obviously is quite upset that he's lost his leg, because that's a big part of being able to play hockey, is having your limbs. So he works very closely with Lexi, who is the team's, she's got like a proper job name on here. What is it? She's their athletic trainer, and they work very closely to rehabilitate Riley and help him get back on the ice, and they fall in love, and it's so cute. I absolutely love this. There was so much depth to this story, obviously because you're following Riley when he's having a bit of a mental block, and going through all of this trauma physically with his own body. It was fascinating to read about an amputee. I've never read anything like this before, so I highly recommend this book specifically, but genuinely the whole series is incredible, and I gave this a 5-star. This month I think was quite heavy on 5 stars now that I'm looking at it, but I gave this a 5-star. I fucking loved it. It was great. So that is that. Then from one 5-star onto another, I read It's a Love Story by Annabel Monaghan, and it was indeed a love story, and I fell in love with it. To the point, like, I started annotating it halfway through. Like, only the last 100 pages are annotated. This follows Jane, who used to be a child star and is now, she like reads screenplays and like picks the ones that she thinks should be made into a movie, I believe. I don't know if there's a proper name for that job, but that is what she does. And she absolutely falls in love with this script and wants to have it be made, but there's a bit of like her bosses don't really see what she's seeing, so she's like, what if I get a really famous pop star on the album, on the soundtrack? And she tries to use her ties to this child star that turned into a pop star from her TV show that she was on to be on her movie soundtrack. But to do this, she ends up having to team up with her workplace nemesis, who is called, what is his name? Dan. That's like generic name 101. His name is Dan. And they go to Dan's hometown and they stay in his parents' house, and they try and track down this pop star at a festival. It's just so much fun, and there was so much heart in the story. It just makes me so happy. Let's see if there's any lines that I've highlighted that feel right to read out to you guys. Oh dear. I have this thought bubbling up that I've gotten to the place I was trying to go, but without trying at all. I love it. I love Annabel Monaghan. I will give you all my money if you just write me books. 1 a month would be great, please. I'm joking, obviously. Oh, like fireworks, but also talking, and I like him so much I can barely function. It made me cry, and I literally can't explain why. Like, it wasn't particularly sad or anything, it just made me cry. So, but I gave this 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. So good. Then I read Winging It With You by Chip Pons. This is a male-male romance following Asher and Theo, who are kind of fake dating. Basically, Asher's boyfriend had signed them up to be on this reality TV show where they travel the world doing these tasks to try and win. It's like £1 million or something. Quite a lot of money. And at the airport, his boyfriend breaks up with him, and so he's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna find another man and go do this show with him. And that is where Theo comes in, and it was so good. It was so good. I really enjoyed this book. I highly recommend it. It's very like, it's summery without being like in your face summer, you know? Like, it's not, oh, we're at a beach now sort of thing, or like, oh, the sun was beating down on it. It's like they're traveling to different places and experiencing all these exciting things, and it just made me feel very summery, like I need a holiday kind of thing. And I gave this a 4 star. Yeah, I gave this a 4 star. Then I would say my most surprising read of the month. Is it? There's a few surprising reads. This is one of them. 3 Pucks and a Baby, which, first of all, why is this book fucking massive? This is huge. Like, why is it so big? Amazon, what are you doing, honestly? This I also read as an ARC, and then I loved it so much that I had to get a physical copy for myself. This follows Vivian, who is a university librarian, and it also follows 3 hockey players who are called, do I remember their names? One of them is called Bennett. One of them is called, like, Graham or something. Let me have a look for their names. Grayson. So Bennett, Grayson, and someone. It's in different POVs. Is his name Theo as well? I think it is. Hello, where is his name? I literally can't see it. Theo, it is Theo, that's funny, there's 2 books in a row with a Theo. But this follows Vivian, who ends up going on a date with Grayson, but little does she know that this is actually all to do with a hockey superstition thing they do before each game, I think, or each season, where Theo and Grayson have a 3-way with like a chosen girl, chosen woman, and Vivian is their chosen woman. They really want her to be involved, and it takes a little bit of persuasion, but she says yes, and they go back to their apartment and start having this 3-way, and then their flatmate Bennett gets home and joins in. It was crazy. This is smutty as fuck, but I loved it, and obviously it's on the cover, you know where this is going. Vivian gets pregnant, and we don't know who the daddy is, and so they end up in a polyamorous relationship whilst Vivian is pregnant, and obviously they decide to raise the baby as a 4. I loved it. It was so wholesome. It was so good. And obviously this also is a queer read because Bennett is bi, and one of the others, I'm not going to say who, is discovering that they are also bisexual. I just loved it. It was so heartwarming. Which is so weird to say about a very smutty hockey romance with accidental pregnancy, but I loved it. I gave this a 4.75 and I'm not even ashamed. It's so good. I highly recommend this one. Then I read Long Shadow by Olivia Atwater. This is book 3 in the Regency Fairy Tales series, and this follows Abigail, who is the daughter of the characters in book 1, which blew my mind. And she is trying to help her father find out whether some dark magic is involved in some, I think it's illnesses or like people dying basically. Clearly this didn't sit in my brain enough for me to understand what's going on, but she meets Mercy, who's also investigating this situation that's going on, and it's just really cute. This was sapphic as well, which I didn't know going into it. So another queer read to add to my roster. 3 in a row. I'm doing so well. But I really enjoyed this. I gave this a 3.5. I would say that this is the book in this series that I enjoyed the most, but ultimately I don't remember anything about any of these books. So very much a 3-star series all round for me, but I do recommend this if you want to try a Regency novel. I don't read Regency, so this was very like new to me. I did enjoy it for what it was, but I don't think Regency style books are my thing in general, so a 3.5. Then I read Gloves Off by Stephanie Archer. I was highly anticipating this because I have loved all the books in the Vancouver Storm series. I will say The Fake Out is my favourite. Is anyone surprised? I'd say no. This follows, I'm going to butcher his name, he's Russian, so I don't know if I'm saying this the correct Russian way, but I think it's pronounced Alexei. He is a very grumpy hockey player whose visa is about to end, which means he will be kicked out of Canada and sent back to Russia. And this follows Georgia, who wants to gain her inheritance in order to donate it to, I can't remember if it's a charity or it's like put it towards what she's working on. She's a doctor. I don't remember much. But to gain this inheritance, she needs to be married for a set amount of time. So he needs a visa, she wants her inheritance. They have a marriage of convenience. And I was so split on what to rate this book because the first half of it, I couldn't stand. I was reading this at my boyfriend's and I'd like stop every few pages and be like, oh my god, they're doing this again. Oh my god, this is what they're saying to each other. Like, it was so brutal. And ultimately it just seemed to be a massive miscommunication trope, which I'm not a big fan of. But then the 50% mark onwards, I was like, actually, I'm in love with this book, and I read it all in one sitting. This is like a 450-page book, and I sat there and I read it in one sitting. So I've given it a 4-star, but that feels too high because I literally hated the first half of this book. So I don't know if it's my bias towards Stephanie Archer that's knocking this up a star. Maybe it's a 3.5, 3.75 mark, but I would say this is my least favourite in the Vancouver Storm series by a lot. So take that as you will. Then, moving on to what I actually think is quite a decent stack. I buddy read Feybound with Lorna, and this I think is genuinely my most surprising book, because I was not expecting to love this as much as I did. I was expecting this to be a 3-star. That's what I was thinking. This is another Sapphic book. This is a fantasy following, again, I'm going to butcher some of these names, Yiren, who is the colonel of like the elven army, and her sister Lettel, who does divination. She's also an elf, obviously, and basically Yiren goes against her instructions whilst like out and about with her army, and so she gets exiled from the elf community, the clan, and her sister goes after her with another guy from the army. I can't remember what, he's like commander or something, but his name is Rayan, I think. I don't know how to pronounce it, but they go looking for Yiren, and the three of them end up stumbling into the Fey lands, which is a big shock to them, because the Fey, as far as they knew, were all dead. They didn't think the Fey were a thing anymore. So that is the plot. That is the basic synopsis of how we get this story. It was fucking phenomenal. I absolutely loved this book. I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to spoil it, but I gave it a 4.75, and I'm highly, like, I'm predicting Cursebound, which is book 2, will be a 5-star. I'm convinced. You can't make me think otherwise. I'm so excited to read it. So that is Feybound. This is probably my most unexpected, highly rated book of this month. So there's that. Then I read Caught Up by Navessa Allen. This is the second book after Lights Out. This book, Jesus Christ, this book needed help. Not in like a bad way, there was just so much random shit going on. So it follows Nico, or Junior as he's called, who works in the mafia. Already crazy. And he is like borderline stalking his high school fling Lauren, who is an OnlyFans creator, or like similar to OnlyFans creator, and they have sex. That's the plot of this book. It's just they reconnect, she resists a bit, and then gives in, and they have sex. So I'm giving it a 3-star. This book was, it was fine. I didn't like it as much as I liked Lights Out, but I don't know what else to say. I enjoyed it for what it was. It was a little bit silly goofy for my liking, but that's that. Then another very unexpected read. I was reading the arc of this, and then the book has come out since, and so I have the physical copy of Romance is Dead by Kate Bourne. I don't know how we're saying that, but there's the spelling if anyone needs it. This was so much fun. This follows Scream Queen Quinn, so she is like the main girlie in horror films, and she is fed up with the industry, so she's decided that the movie she's currently filming is her last horror movie she's gonna do, and on the set of this film people keep dying in suspicious circumstances, and Quinn thinks that, well, first of all, she thinks this is suspicious, I'm going to investigate that, and then she starts getting these notes, and they lead her to believe that the killer is actually after her. So she enlists her co-star Teddy to help her investigate and find the killer, and this was adorable. This was a mystery thriller romance. I loved it. I ate this shit up and gave it a 5-star. My third 5-star of the month. Crazy times. But I really liked this. I thought Quinn was a very interesting character. I love the behind the scenes information we get about horror movies and obviously the film industry in general. There was some cute like father-daughter time that was in this book with Quinn's dad, and I just thought Teddy was such a sweet love interest. It was so good. I really enjoyed this, and the dynamic with Quinn and her friends on set as well was quite tense, because obviously she was investigating a murder and they are all suspects, so I really enjoyed this and I gave it a 5-star. I highly recommend, and this is out now. I think the only book that's not out as of uploading this is Riding High, which comes out on, I think, the 18th of July, around then. But this is out and I highly recommend it. I gave it a 5-star and I'm obsessed. Then another arc that I read and enjoyed so much I got a physical copy is Coming in Hot by, oh my god, I think I've damaged the cover already. Coming in Hot by Josie Juniper. This is a Formula One romance between a journalist and a team owner, I believe he is. And it is an age gap, and it is an age gap done well. I really like this. I don't know if it's because the age of these characters is a little bit older than the ones in Problematic Summer Romance, which obviously I didn't like, because that was 20s and 30s, and then this is 30s and 40s. But this was done so well. I listened to this as an audiobook, and I do recommend listening to it rather than reading it. I thought the audiobook narrators were really good. I will say Klaus, our love interest, is, I cannot remember what nationality he is. He's not American and he's not English, basically. And they had this poor man, they had a very British person do the narration for his parts because it's dual POV, and then in Natalia's POV you have Natalia putting on an accent, which was funny, but it got the point across. Like, it didn't deter me from listening to it. I did really enjoy it, and I gave this a 4-star. It's a little bit like, not forbidden romance, it's a weird one to describe. Basically they just feel guilty about sleeping together because they work together, and she's trying to write a piece on him and like his team, I believe, and he's got a dead wife. Just there, I think that's all the info you need. But I really enjoyed this and I do recommend it, especially if you like Formula One. I think this did a good job of catering to people that understand what's being talked about. So I gave this a 4-star. Then, a little bit disappointingly, I read What You Were Looking For Is in the Library by, I'm gonna butcher this, Mikiko Aoyama. Again, you can look at the spelling there if you think I've done it wrong. This is very similar to Before the Coffee Gets Cold, if you've read that, where it is 5 short stories, all with like an interconnecting location being the library, where these people will want to open a shop or start a new hobby, or like just want books for their kids and stuff, and they'll go to the librarian, ask for these books, and she will give them a recommendation on the end of the list of books they're actually looking for that has nothing to do with what they've asked about, but the librarian feels like they need to read that, and ultimately it is that book she recommends of her own accord that is the book that helps these people with whatever they're trying to do. So it was fine. It was a good time. I just found it quite boring because I did read, I think, 4 out of 5 of the Before the Coffee Gets Cold books this year, so they all follow a very similar structure, and I'm just a bit bored of that now. So I gave this a 2-star, but I do recommend it if you like Japanese literature and you did like Before the Coffee Gets Cold and you aren't fed up of that format, then this is a book for you. And then finally, I read this in one sitting yesterday. I'm filming this on literally the 1st of July, so I read this on the final day of June just to get my wrap up to a nice even number. I read A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic by J. Penner. This is a very cozy fantasy read. This follows, I'm gonna butcher some more names, this follows Arletta, who is a human in this very fantastical setting where humans are kind of looked down upon, and she ends up in a baking competition because she's extremely good at baking, and this basically just follows her in that baking competition, and like, it was really fun to read. I thought it'd be boring reading about baking, but it was really fun, and she meets some friends along the way. Obviously we have Dolly and Jez she meets, and I believe they are getting their own books. I know Dolly has one because I've actually read her book already, and it was just so cute, and there's like a little romance going on. I just love it. I love this series. There's 2 books out that I know of right now. There is Fellowship of Bakers and Magic and a Fellowship of like Dragons and Librarians, and Dragons. I can't see it on my shelf. But I absolutely adored this. I gave it a 4-star, and I really, it's so cozy. This is my favourite cozy fantasy I've ever read. It's so good. But those were the 18 books that I read in June. I would say my recommendations, if you are looking for them, is Hat Trick, It's a Love Story, 3 Pucks and a Baby if you want to go a little raunchy, Feybound, definitely, Romance is Dead, and then I am going to say A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic because I really did love it. So those are my recommendations from what I read last month, and I can't wait to see how many books I can read in July. I've just switched jobs and I've got 2 months off because I'm now working in a school, which means I get the summer holidays off, which is lovely, but it now means I've got so much time to just sit and read. I don't do anything else basically. There's a few little trips and stuff I'm doing, but like ultimately I'm reading pretty much all day every day now, and I can't wait to see how much I can read when I've literally got nothing else on. So look forward to seeing some hefty reading vlogs from me in the near future, and yeah, I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you next week with another video. Bye!